Hello and welcome to Gig Masters. This week's episode is a review of 5 things that will prevent you from getting a callback. Amateurs make these mistakes, pros make these mistakes, and today we're going to talk about how to prevent making these 5 common mistakes. Plus, at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a 6th bonus mistake. Anyway, here we go. Let's start with number 5 and go to number 1. Number 5. This may sound strange, but in some venues, it is up to you to set your performance area. And many times, your footprint is too big. Too big a footprint is a common mistake. Restaurants and country clubs, or where there's dining, those venues don't want to give up tables. Tables mean money for them. And the more tables they have to give up so that you can put up your equipment, that means they're paying to lose money. So, keep your performance area footprint as small as possible. I keep mine when I'm doing a solo at really tight little venues, which is predominantly what I'm doing these days. Restaurants, private country clubs, public and private dining rooms of all sorts. I try to keep my performance area very small because oftentimes I show up on a gig and the designated performance area that they're trying to put me in is very small. So I limit my performance footprint, if you will, to a 4x6 rug. I'll show you next door here a little bit of an example of my entire, I put all of my equipment right on that little rug. So get in the habit of keeping your performance footprint small. A lot of venues, you don't need 15 tons of gear. You don't need stage lights. You don't need monitors on the floor. You don't need, there's a lot of equipment you can do without. Keep your footprint small and get used to performing in a very tight spot. You will find that you'll get more gigs. All right, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, not enough material. Look, guys, if you get hired to do a 2-hour gig or a 3-hour gig and all you know is 6 songs, you got a problem. You're going to have to repeat those 6 songs for 2-3 hours. That's not going to work. Learn some songs. Typically, in a 2-hour gig, I will play 30 songs, 40 songs maybe. In a 3-hour gig, more than that. So make your repertoire larger than it needs to be, and make sure that your repertoire is relevant to the venue. Okay, let's move on. Number 3, the wrong material. Okay, let's talk about that. Number 3, make sure that you do your homework. Make sure that you're going to be playing music that is relevant to the venue. Okay? For example, when you're at happy hour, if you're doing a happy hour, there's certain songs you don't want to do. Like, for example, one song that I know that I've actually had to fire a guy for, Dust in the Wind. You know that song? All we are is dust in the wind. I don't even know that song. I've never learned it because, are you kidding me? You're going to play Dust in the Wind at happy hour? Another example is, I do a lot of these assisted living facilities. Back in the day when I was a kid, they used to call them old folks homes. Certain songs you don't want to be playing. Like, for example, one that comes to mind is Knocking on Heaven's Door. You're going to play Knocking on Heaven's Door in an old folks home? Another one is Stairway to Heaven. It's not as bad as Knocking on Heaven's Door, but almost. Guys, be conscious of the material that you're playing. Also, let me tell you a quick story. Back in the late 70s, I was playing bass for a punk rock band in Houston, Texas. And the leader of the band decided to enter us into a showcase where the winning band. It was like a battle of the bands, except he forgot to tell the rest of the band one important detail, that this was a country western bar. Okay, so we went in to this country western bar and played punk rock music. That did not go over well. We didn't get a call back. Okay, it wasn't my call. I didn't know about it until I got in the parking lot of this place. But you know what? A couple of beers, I was game. God Save the Queen. A lot of booze. It was like a scene from the Blues Brothers where they're throwing bottles up at the chicken wire. Not quite that bad, but pretty close. I think we did 1.5 songs, and then we were asked to leave. And come on, punk rock at a country western bar? Make sure that your material fits the demographic of the venue. Huh. All right, let's move on. Number 2, too loud a volume or too soft, but mostly too loud. That's a big one. I would make that number 1, but the number 1 that I have coming up here, you'll see why I didn't make it number 1. Your volume. And I'm going to do an episode about volume and how to determine the volume for a specific venue. I'll do a future episode, so make sure you check that out. But as a music director at several venues, I find that a lot of even pros make this mistake. I call it having rock star-itis. When you're hired to do a background gig at a dining room, you want to play under the chatter of the room, not over it. When you play a showcase gig where there's a stage and there's a sound man and there's a big sound system and the patrons are there specifically for a music event, yeah, then volume being too loud isn't as important. I used to play venues like that, and I used to enjoy going to venues where the music was really loud. But as a professional musician working hundreds of gigs a year, I really wanted to get paid. And in my market, and this is going to sound weird, but we've got an old saying in my market, the 3 L's. Late and loud equals low dough. So I wanted to break into the restaurant and more lucrative country club circuit, and I know that lower volume gets you paid more in my market. That may be different in your market, but in my market, background music, atmosphere music, or what we call wallpaper gigs are more lucrative than these loud late night bar gigs. And I did hundreds, thousands of those. I'm too old for that shit. I'm not trying to be a rock star. I just want a paycheck. And if you're trying to be a rock star, you're probably going to be booking yourself at venues that, well, they either have a sound man or they can do a sound check prior to the patrons getting there. And during that sound check, you'll be able to determine the correct volume. A lot of times I walk in while there's already people there at the venue and they're eating. And at dining venues, the waiters have to be able to hear the customers order the food. People need to be able to talk at their table for the most part. And then at the higher end of the spectrum, the private country clubs that I work at, where there's 100 people in a room and every single one of them is a millionaire or a billionaire, and they're there specifically to enjoy the cuisine and the wine and light background entertainment. Volume is key. Low volume. One of the things that I like to do when I get to one of these for the first time is make them tell you to turn up, not down. If they tell you to turn down, you're not coming back. If they tell you to turn up, you're in a good spot. You turn it up. All right, let's move on to number 1. Number 1 mistake that guys make going out on a gig is limited talent. Guys, on the outside chance that you book a gig and the venue has no idea what you do, and you don't get called back, it might be because you have a limited amount of talent, and you may need to go back to the woodshed and do some more practicing and hone your skill, develop a little bit more talent. I see this all the time. I've seen awkward situations where I'll go to a venue and the performer is, let's say, less than adequate, and they don't get called back, and they're scratching their head. Why? Let's talk about this for a minute. Let's say that you have a doubt about your level of talent, whether you're ready to go gig or not. Well, you can do a couple of things. Number one, you can upload a video on YouTube and ask people to comment and click the thumbs up or thumbs down. That's a good way. Don't rely too much on your family or your friends, because they're going to tell you what you want to hear because they love you and they don't want to hurt your feelings and they want to avoid drama. So family and friends, unless you can really trust them with breaking your heart in some cases, you know, a lot of people don't have that little voice in their head that says, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I need to practice a little more. Some people think they're fantastic right out of the box, and they're not. So if you are wondering if you have a certain level of talent, upload a video on YouTube. Ask people to critique you. If you want, leave a link to your video in the comments below, and I will give you my honest opinion. I'll rate you on several factors. And we'll go into you know what I'll do? I'll make another video about that in the future. Okay. And just keep that in mind, that if you don't get a call back, it may be because you're just not ready. And you need to, you know, either practice a little more or maybe forget it altogether and go, you know, be a stockbroker or sell insurance or something. Anyway, the bonus mistake, number 6, if you will, is not even your fault. The venue dropped the ball. The venue sucks. The venue fucked up. It happens a lot. The venue will sometimes forget that they even booked you, and you show up and they don't have anywhere for you to set up, or there's some other event going on, or worse, they double booked and there's already some dude there playing and singing in your spot, and the venue, if they pay you and apologize, that's one thing. But out of the thousands of gigs that I've done, I've had to bring 6 venues to small claims court, believe it or not. One was a church. Mostly little dinky restaurants that tried to piggyback on my branding, but I've won every single time in small claims court. And the reason why is if you go back to one of my prior episodes entitled The Contract, you'll see how that contract comes into play. I don't want to go into too many details, but this bonus mistake, it's not even your fault. It's the venue. You're going to be surprised at how many venue managers or owners don't have a clue what they need for entertainment. They have no clue. You're going to run into that a lot. They're going to have the chef book the entertainment. The chef went to culinary school and he knows how to cook. He spends 90% of his time in the kitchen, and he's going to book entertainment. That's why I get a lot of entertainment consulting gigs where I go to venues and talk to them about their comprehensive entertainment program. A lot of times I tell them they don't even need entertainment. A lot of restaurants and other public and private venues want to have live entertainment. And sometimes I have to tell them, why incur the extra expense and liability of that when you're, okay, let's say you're packed all the time. you need more people. You can't handle more people. You're packed. The house is full. So I've actually had to tell venues not to even have entertainment. I mean, I'd like to take their money, but it's going to backfire on you eventually because you're lying to them. And so anyway, when I do a consulting gig, I tell them straight up a lot of times, hey, your food's great, your service is wonderful, you're always busy, you're always packed. Why have entertainment? I mean, if you're just dying to have it, that's great. I'll be happy to help you. But from a business perspective, it kind of doesn't make sense because you're going to pay entertainment. You're going to have to move a table or 2 or 3 or 5. You're going to lose money there. But if that's what you want, okay. So anyway, that bonus one is, a lot of times it's not even your mistake. It's the venue. The venue fucked up. That happens a lot. But if they pay you and rebook you, everything's cool. Come back, do it again. However, I find that venues that do this do it habitually. And let's say they book you on a Saturday night. You could have played somewhere else on a Saturday night, and then here they go double booking you, and they send you home. They better pay you. I'll do a video about that in the future too. How to get paid when a venue double books. Go back to the contract. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this episode has been helpful. I hope that you can get a little bit of knowledge from my past videos and my future videos. Please leave a comment below if you have a suggestion about common mistakes live entertainers make. Hit the subscribe button. Tick that little bell so you can get notified when I upload future videos. And ladies and gentlemen, have a great day and have a great gig.